A new report from the National Energy Board is shedding light on how much oil oversupply is coming out of Western Canada. Canadian oil companies are producing 202,000 more barrels of crude per day than there is pipeline capacity to transport. Pipeline capacity has come into focus in recent months after a major plunge in the price of Canadian heavy crude. The surge in supply has hurt oil producers and the Alberta government, which last month announced a plan to purchase rail cars to transport more barrels a day. For more on this, I want to bring in Dennis McConaghy. He's the former Executive Vice President of TransCanada, and he's joining us now from Happy Bay, California. We thank you for your time, Dennis.
Thank you.
Was the result of this report surprising to you?
Absolutely not surprising. It simply validated the actual accounting up to the month of September based on the information that the National Energy Board would collate. Of course, it's entirely corroborative of the phenomena that led to the massive price discounts through the fall and the intervention of the Alberta of curtailments in December that will be implemented on January 1st.
So what is the cost of a delayed Trans Mountain pipeline? What is it taking on the oil market?
Well, what we're talking about is whether it's a delayed Trans Mountain, a delayed KXL, or Enbridge Line 3. Any one of those three alternatives simply means that there's too many barrels in Alberta competing for space on the existing pipelines, and this gives bargaining leverage to the refiners that Alberta bitumen production primarily is intended for, and that's created these additional discounts that are in excess of what should normally pertain, given that an Alberta location still has to transport its oil to downstream refineries. The scale of that, the losses have been documented in public, and they run, literally in the billions of dollars on an annual basis. The solution is, of course, getting these pipelines in place. But at the best case scenario, that's not going to happen for at least another 2 to 3 years.
Now, as a result, the Alberta government has imposed temporary curtailment. So what is the impact of that on the Canadian oil market and its ability to perform?
Well, as we saw after the program was announced, there was an improvement in the futures market. What I think we're going to see is that this curtailment program could last longer than people expect, and very much is going to depend on the next 6 months, in my opinion. Within the next 6 months, we're going to know the fate of KXL. It will either get through its legal hurdles in the United States or it will not. And I believe by midsummer, the federal government, led by Justin Trudeau, is going to have to make a decision to reapprove TMX. And then, of course, if everything goes well with respect to Enbridge Line 3, it may be in service in late 2019. But if those two, if we kind of go 0 for 3 on those three pipeline alternatives, this curtailment could last longer because there's simply too much oil being offered up, and it's depressing the price that otherwise would be obtainable. And so the Alberta government's made this intervention. And at this point, I think the likelihood of it disappearing is going to be entirely a consequence of the fate of these three pipeline projects next year.
Dennis McConaghy, former Executive Vice President of TransCanada, we appreciate your thoughts on this today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.